So we on vacation. And I coerce you to record because I'm a madman. But you know,
our second vacation pod.
Yeah.
On vacation.
I know. It was wrestling the last one. But I think some things been happening in the world. Some things that weren't uncomfortable conversations. I will. I'm comfortable. Are you comfortable?
Yes.
She just asked that I want to get comfortable. Well, guess what? Let's run the ads. Let's run the beginning. And then coming up, we got a lot of stuff to talk about right here on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings.
I'm excited to talk more about my background.
Also worked in so many places of media, which you will find out more. Two friends who like wrestling that talk about wrestling. To now, let's start a podcast. And
grassroots style, the way me and Brian have done it. Every opportunity is an opportunity.
Kind of makes me want to step my game up a little bit more just because the space is so oversaturated. Anyone can start a podcast.
I live in New York City, so there's, opportunity everywhere in New York. Like, everyone's doing something. You go to a bar for happy hour, the bartender has a business.
And you apply that same strategy to network. You being very intentional. Find your why. What's the reason? Then do it.
Podcasting allowed me to break out of my comfort zone, to break out of my shell.
This is 6HM Productions.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Break Through Glass Ceilings. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. And on today's show, I'm joined by my lovely significant other, the one, the only Miss Queen PR of WWE Meets Pop Culture, of TWG Fan Club, and most foremost of the brand itself, those wrestling girls. How are you feeling?
I feel so good.
Yeah.
I love potting with you.
Oh, I love potting with you. You know, you've been on this show before. It was, we talked about your career. So most people, y'all go in the archives, dig deep, because that was in 2021.
Holy shit. Time is a crazy ass thing.
It is. And if they paid attention to the intro, they didn't hit the skip button, they will see that we have other ventures coming along. Make sure y'all subscribe to Six Heart Media Production. Link in the, I don't want to say the whole link in the bio because I think they get it, but it's right there. The YouTube
Google
cards.
it. 6HM Productions.
Google it.
You'll get all the links you need.
All right. So this week, like I said, it's been crazy. Not going to delve too deep into the craziness, but we saw, unfortunately, there was a hit job. I hate to say it. People talking about the CEO, Brian Thompson, getting killed. And what sucks is that a lot of people are making fun of it. You seen more videos of it online. You seen the actual, and then I even saw something where somebody said, "Not gonna say we wished it, but not sorry." And I'm like, healthcare is one of them very controversial things. I know for me, when I saw that, it was scary because I think about people I know that are very, very, very close to me who work in Manhattan. But then one of the things is that you saw that other companies are scrubbing, which I think is great. They're scrubbing their leadership off of that. So, but it's always crazy. You ever think about, like, when you take vacations, something major happening? Has that ever happened? Like if you go back and think about your life, a vacation of a major life event happened. Like one time Charlottesville happened when I was at NABJ press conference. We always say at NABJ something crazy happens. That was the same one where Omarosa got into it with the journalists. This is during obviously the Trump era. But do you ever think about that? Like when you go on vacation, crazy life events?
Oh, for sure. And with that guy getting, I guess, assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word. In the middle of Manhattan on streets that I could have easily been walking down, like easily. And I grew up in New York City. I've seen some wild shit. I will say I have never seen anyone executed in broad daylight in the middle of a Manhattan street. So it is interesting that, we're here on vacation and then something like that happens right in like my backyard, it feels like. But it is one of those things where the same reason why like your parents want to know where you are at all times so that if they see something wild on the news, they know like, okay, I know where my child is, so that can't be them. And I think that's a similar situation where it's like, I'm not in New York. I'm fine. You know, everything is good. But it is wild to think what could happen that quickly.
I just thought about when you said that. The validation. Like, I'm like, okay, my mother's watching this. She's gonna say, see, I like her because she gets it. You know, but and then the crazy thing is they say he went into Central Park and there's all the cameras, obviously. But during that, they were like, they're trying to like locate and using all this technology. But then there's the question of, are they really? Which sucks because you wouldn't think about something that's like healthcare. And something, you know, it's crazy.
It's honestly also terrifying too, because I think most of your listeners would feel the same way about, you know, I hate to bring it back to like, you know, the presidential election.
Yeah.
Of that fear of like the Wild Wild West, where, you know, Republican, Democrat, whatever, there's still this sense of like decency or reason, you know, that still existed in society. And there's this fear that I have now with, you know, our next president, that the reason has gone out the window and we're about to enter a world that nothing really makes any sense. And, you know, the unthinkable is possible. And I can't help but think about, you know, this assassination. I can't help but think it has something to do with politics.
Yeah.
And just like where the world is going. And we've seen it during COVID. You know, health professionals were like treated as a joke in some parts of the world. And people that were trying to save lives and warn America about a public health crisis was mocked on a daily basis, called a liar. And these are people that, you know, we look to for information to like save lives. And so now to see that, you know, the CEO of United Healthcare is getting assassinated in broad daylight. It's terrifying to think like where is the world headed?
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. But you know, let's shift gears, something positive, something that's very, very dear to you. I want to go to the WNBA.
Yay! I love talking about the WNBA. Yeah.
So first I want to go, I'll say low and then I'll go high, if that's cool. The Toronto Tempo.
Okay.
They unveiled their new logo and a lot of people aren't feeling it. Did you see the logo? What did you think?
I did see the logo. Once I became a fan last season, I followed like every WNBA like account. Like I followed like Slam. There's a women's version, Slam. Like I followed everything so I could keep up with everything that the WNBA was up to. So learning about the two new teams and the Valkyrie was, you know, with the expansion draft, and knowing that there was still that one other team that needed to get announced, and the first international team of the WNBA, which is huge.
Yeah.
Toronto Tempo. I was reading some of the comments on some of the posts, and a lot of people were saying like they could have done better. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
You don't think? Do you think it rolls? Toronto Tempo.
I mean, I think the word is kind of lame. I don't know, like tempo. I don't know. I think once there's like some faces behind the team and the personalities that, are a part of branding teams, I think once that happens, I think we'll get more used to it. Yeah. The logo, I think, could have been way more interesting, in my opinion. I would love to know your thoughts. I just think it was just so, and there's a lot of meaning behind it. Yeah. So I saw,
because I know you do your research.
Design. Yeah, there's a lot actually that went into the design of the Toronto Tempo logo. And everything in that logo has a meaning. So I don't want to like downplay it that way. But it's like teased with like motion behind it and like a lot of lines. I think it could have been a little bit cooler. But you know, I didn't like the first New York Liberty logo wasn't the best either, because they just wanted it to look like the Knicks logo. And then once they found their own identity and the new New York Liberty logo, I think is really cool. So I'm not gonna be too hard.
You know what? At that time, I didn't hate the New York Liberty logo, and I vividly remember finding out about the WNBA. Shout out to my cousin Sonia. We was watching the NBA All-Star game that year. Had to have been the 97 All-Star game, whatever the first year was, right? And we was at my Aunt Jean's house, her mother, my grandmother's sister. And we're watching it, and then the commercial comes on. It's like, oh, it's the WNBA coming out. She was excited. So, okay, women's basketball. And then, you know, it's LA and New York. I'm a Laker fan, so I gravitated towards the Sparks. And I was like, okay, it's just a logo. But I guess because now what we see the evolution, it's like, oh wait, this is better. And maybe I do like that they didn't, because you mentioned going after the Knicks, right? They didn't take the Raptors logo. They didn't become a women's version, because that's what it felt like a lot of times, that the teams were the women's version of that, as opposed to being able to stand out on their own.
Right.
Tempo, I always think about like, okay, fast pace. And I'm like, what if I have a team that plays at a slower tempo? I know tempo can, so I don't know.
That's why I think once players
Yeah.
join the league, or the team, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll all start to kind of shape together. And you mentioned, I don't want to go on a WNBA soapbox.
Oh, you can though. This is a place for it.
Okay.
Because most of the time with WWE pop culture, you got to get back to the wrestling.
Exactly.
But
so I can't
let's
really
talk about the
go on
hoops,
and on
the
and on.
basketballs.
But it's that like it's that weird balance between, like, we at one point, like, we needed the NBA's stamp of approval, we needed their endorsement to make these teams, so it made sense, and it added value to the teams to just have it be the sister
that
team.
makes sense.
Especially because a lot of times, actually, I don't know if a lot of times is right, WNBA history is so interesting, but for most of the time, the owners of the arenas that the NBA team plays in, if there was a sister team, it was under the same ownership, under the same everything. So it just made sense to be like, okay, this is now the female Lakers or the female Knicks, or whatever the case may be. And now with women's sports elevating so much, like, I don't really even think that's needed. Like,
that's true.
Do we want the NBA co-sign 100%? The funds, the budgets, yes. Give us all of that, but at the same time, it's like, we don't need it. We don't need the Toronto Tempo to be anything like the Raptors. I think about the cities that have a WNBA team and not an NBA team, and it was never one of those. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's really cool that we've sort of abandoned that way of thinking.
Vegas.
Yeah,
Las Vegas Aces.
Las Vegas Aces. They were like, they're thriving. They have a brand within themselves. So I think it's nice to see that the evolution of the WNBA and like the brand presence of it all. And I was gonna say one more thing, because I just always have so much to say about women's sports. I love it.
Let's do it.
That I love so much is because during the last WNBA season, the first one I was actively tuned into, I was able to find a lot of other women's sports fans, WNBA fans, Liberty fans on like Threads, for example. And a lot of them watch all sports, especially women. A lot of people watch all sports, and they even said like, WNBA is a little bit more entertaining, a little bit more interesting than the NBA
Talk
is
about it
right now. And it's more exciting, and the newness of it too as well. Now that women, the NIL program, I think also has a huge effect on that too, because we're now excited for the players that haven't even gotten to the WNBA yet, and we're watching them and we're excited for them. I think women in the NIL program made like so much more money than the men in that program that are also more memorable. Like, no shade, but are any of the men in that program like global stars right now? Like Paige Buckers, Juju Watkins. Like, I don't hear the male counterparts in that program.
Johnson.
Yeah, who has a podcast. She's signed to Rock Nation Sports. She's a rapper. Choices. But it's just exciting.
It is exciting. You have Cooper Flagg, who's like the projected number 1 pick, white boy who can shoot. Unfortunately, I mean, we've seen that before.
Oh, him.
We've seen the Christian Laettner. We watched a lot of the Olympic stuff. We've seen JJ Redick, who's now a coach. So it's not like he's standing out, unlike a Paige, a Juju, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, like these people stand out. But I'm so glad you brought up the entertainment factor, because I didn't write this down, but I saw this as I was doing research before we put together the show. Shaq said that Steph Curry has kind of ruined the NBA. Now, you may know there's a lot of talk about
pointers.
Remember, yes, all year WNBA ratings through the roof, increase, right? That was the whole talk of the summer. Well, I'm pretty sure you've seen, because you do a lot of research and stats, that the NBA's ratings are suffering. And what did I tell you during the summer? I kept saying how much I enjoyed WNBA.
Yes.
The fundamentals.
You did say that, yes. games. Yep.
Yeah, and I remember the other day I was watching the NBA. It might have been Thanksgiving or something, and I just kept seeing threes, just the shots, and I was like, all right, I'm turning this off. I'm annoyed. The one thing I loved about your New York Liberty winning the championship was the freaking MVP. JJ, oh shit, back down like that ground and pound, back down, turn around, jump shot, driving to the lane. That was the thing about Courtney Williams, the heart, determination. And so it doesn't surprise me that the ratings are down. And like you said, you heard somebody say, and talk about how the WNBA is more entertaining. And I think it's something like the NBA is going to have to pay attention, because one of the key things you said was all the names. Now, if that's the direction we're going in, because there's still, shout out to Sarah Sohi and the WNBA show on The Ringer, there's a lot of women out there who are killing it. And shout out to all the women and all the people who cover women's basketball, because there are more names. Maybe they're not the household names, but they have the skill set. And I think the thing I'm most excited about the expansion is what people don't realize: the WNBA is the hardest league to get into. Just for the simple fact, it's not that many teams. Think about somebody like Liz Cambridge, right? She was somebody that everybody was like, of course, she's very unapologetic in how she looks, but everybody's like, okay, well, she's like 6'7". She'd easily be playing in a team somewhere. But it wasn't just that simple. Just, oh, she's 6'7", let's sign her. That lets you know there's a lot of women who are talented enough to play in the WNBA, but there's just not enough roster spots. So I'm very excited. And sticking with the WNBA, your girl, Sabrina.
Yes.
Man, the number 2 most worn shoe in the NBA games.
That's huge.
Now, when I looked at that, yes, people going to make the qualifiers, right? Of course, if you're Kyrie Irving, you're not going to wear, say, Jason Tatum's shoe. You're not going to wear KD's shoe if you're on his team or going against him. Whatever. There's still a thing called Jordans. And if you're not signed, you're going to wear Jordans. Kobe's shoe was the number 1 for obvious reasons. This is a generation who revere Kobe the way I do. That he is their GOAT. And, it's a lot of LeBron GOATs in the generation. But I thought it was incredible that one of the top 5, top 10 women's basketball players in the league has a signature shoe that has the second most amount of minutes worn. What did you think, Miss Queen PR, when you saw that? I know it just had to bring joy to your heart.
Yeah, it really did, because one, it just says it's a good basketball shoe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that a really good basketball shoe that basketball players like to wear to play is huge. And it's a women's basketball shoe, her signature shoe at that. Side note, Ellie, the elephant, designed
I knew I was gonna get an Ellie elephant
a
reference.
colorway for the Sabrina sneaker at one point, and I just want to put that out there because I don't think any other mascot has designed a basketball sneaker before. Thank you.
When can we get Ellie on the show?
Oh my God! I am very familiar with Ellie.
I know.
I will see what I can do.
Y'all was partying, living it up, doing the celebration
at the Liberty Championship celebration at Barclays Center.
I want one of those at Camden Yards.
But yeah, when I saw that about the Sabrina shoe, I was so impressed. I was so happy. I love, because before the WNBA season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember, we watched a 30 for 30 about the women's Olympic team.
Yes.
Shout out to I forgot what year that was.
Yeah, oh man.
Like 97 or something.
It was definitely in the 90s because Cheryl, the GOAT. It was probably
95
before.
or 96 because I know the success of because they took it very seriously. Mm-hmm. They started a year out. They were like, we're going to build this team. We're going to build these relationships with these players. We're going to do all of this. And the hype around all of that was a part of the inspiration to start a women's, National Basketball Association. So we watched that documentary. I think it was like a 3-parter. And then for me, that really opened my eyes up to women's basketball. And as a new fan, it was a great way to kind of kick off my fandom of the WNBA. And just hearing the things that they had to deal with, like some of the silly things that was being said about, I can only imagine if one of those players at the time was like, I'm going to design a basketball shoe.
Yeah.
Right? What reaction it would have gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, I'm going to design a basketball shoe that is going to be the second most worn in the NBA. Like the reactions that they probably would have gotten at that time. Like, and now to see, how this has changed. And just another shout out to Sabrina, her doing the 3-point contest with Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Like that is huge. Like now it's kind of like it kind of came and went, but it's like that just showed you kind of where basketball was going. And I'm sad to say, like, I think, WNBA is at a point where also because of social media, and I'm going to use this as a way to plug Sue Bird.
Plug away.
One of the best basketball players on the planet. And who's won multiple Olympic gold medals. I think she even has she holds a record for the most as a women's basketball player, I believe.
Yeah.
Multiple
time champion.
Yes, multiple time champion. And a part of UConn. Her legacy in basketball is unrivaled.
Yes.
But her advocacy for women in sports, for women's basketball, from, as soon as she knew she had the power to speak up on certain issues, she has. And I don't ever want to talk about the growth of the WNBA or where it's headed and how it's looked at as a brand and the increase in viewership and the records that WNBA broke, viewership records, attendance records, everything last season without bringing up Sue Bird, because she has fought on the most fundamental level for these women athletes to be treated a certain way, to make as much money as possible, and just the overall wellness of these athletes. And I think it's made a huge difference.
Most definitely.
You see it in the viewership records. Like, and I think too, same thing with women's wrestling, it's just more exciting because it's new. When we started those wrestling girls, it was fun to talk about the firsts of things. Yeah. Because that's exciting. Like, we've never seen the women do a Royal Rumble. We've never seen the women headline WrestleMania, things that we've seen men do for 30, 40, 50 years. And it's the same thing with the NBA. Like, especially like my dad would call like the super teams kind of ruined even his the entertainment value of the NBA for him, because it's just like, right, it's like you got all these big money players all on one team, then it doesn't make the games as competitive. Like, we just watched the Lakers and the Celtics best of rivals. There's a million docs on them, but like we watched one of them recently, and the excitement of those games. Like, I'm not saying I fucking watch the NBA, but like, have you watched any NBA games in the last 5 years that has given you, and okay, well, minus the pandemic, but like that has given you that same rush, like play by play, where you're just like, you know what I mean?
No, unless you're talking about your New York Knickerbockers, only because, again, there's not a super team. It's the younger team. So
that hunger is real.
The hunger, sorry to say it, but them and the Pacers, I know it didn't end the way, but like, you remember the rush. But again, by the time we, with the Celtics you more respected because they were a team put together. It wasn't like, I'm a Lakers fan, but being honest, LeBron James, superstar, Anthony Davis, superstar. Okay, yes, too, but it's like, it was fun watching them win in the pandemic because it's like, did it for Kobe. But it wasn't like with Kobe and Shaq, or Kobe and Pau Gasol, where it was like, okay, we built this team from the ground up and we came and, so you're right. And the thing about, and one thing I want to touch on, because you said like, okay, you're excited because it's new, but like with women's wrestling, they did their part. They did their work in the ring. The biggest tragedy we always say about women's basketball is that there was not a WNBA for Cheryl Miller to play in.
Oh my God.
Because to this day, people still say the greatest women's basketball player of all time.
Or even some circles, they'll say one of the greatest players.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
In the game of basketball, period.
Better, and Reggie, who was a top 50. That's the first, like,
and be her.
yeah, and she's better than, he still says she's better than him. So like you said, top greatest basketball player, you know, and I love when we watched the All-Star game this weekend. I don't know what I'm doing. Put him at
She was so funny. And that kind of stuff really just warms your heart because it's, you got to pay that respect there. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, you know, she's coached. She's done a lot in the industry, obviously, but it's still important because the WNBA is what, 30 years old?
I think there's something, what is it, 30 or 25?
Something like it's not, maybe 25. It's not that old compared to the NBA.
Yeah.
But it still feels new right now. And that hunger that you talked about with like building a team from the ground up, like how the Knicks are exciting to watch now because it's this new team starting from scratch, hungry, want to work together, make history. I think every woman in the WNBA has to perform that way because we always going to be fighting for respect. Yeah. And I have to say, you know, mention Sue Bird again. I love her. The women been killing it in the WNBA. Yeah. These games been exciting. These series, you know, I always talk about Maya Moore
and Candace Parker.
Right. It's just that now the world is now paying attention. And that's, I want to make sure I mention as well. It's not like, oh my God, people are paying attention. Let's go hard. It's always been that way. And if you talk to diehard fans, I had the opportunity at the Liberty Championship celebration at Barclay before it was started.
Liberty Championship. My team won the championship. Yeah, she do that to me all the time, so I had to get her back.
Wow. But I was able to talk to like diehard Liberty fans that were wearing merch with that old horrible logo that I talked about earlier. And they were like saying like, I've been going to games from the Garden to when they played at a fucking college in Westchester because they couldn't sell tickets. There were and I get little goosebumps because like the fucking journey, like loving women's basketball, 97 or whenever the league starts, like New York gets a fucking team and you being a fan and going to every game and following this team. Now you got, this team is now their champions.
Yeah.
Those are that's what makes sports so meaningful. And I think about diehard fans of just the WNBA period that read all those headlines about viewership records and just how the sense of pride that has to come along with that. So I definitely want to just bring up like people like Ari, what's her last name? That does the highlight her for Bleacher Report.
Ariel Chambers?
Yes,
Ariel
her.
Chambers.
Someone like her who I met when she had just started, or maybe she didn't just start, but I met her when she was starting up the women's, the highlight her to spotlight women's athletes and women's sports years ago. And now I think about somebody like her, you know, doing commentary for the first time at a Liberty game, seeing all of the growth in the numbers and all this kind of stuff. Because I'm sure she was probably going to Liberty games in Westchester County or whatever it was. And I want to just give a shout out to those fans because that has to feel so fucking good. And now it's just the beginning. We got 2 new teams. Okay, like 10 years from now, babe, who knows like how far we're gonna go. And it's such a beautiful thing.
It is.
And I just want to really quickly, if you are a fan of women's sports, you are an advocate for women's sports, and you want to see it continue to grow, I suggest you follow Together.
Yes.
TOGETHXR. And it is a nonprofit organization that was founded by Sue Bird and a few other amazing dynamic athletes, women athletes. And the whole point of that is to be an advocate for women's sports. And they are doing amazing work on the fundamental level to give women in sports the leg up. Everything from helping, this is going to sound crazy, but like shaping workouts, trainings around like menstrual cycles. Like that might sound wild to you or to someone else, but that's a thing. And I think it's important to also, I told you I was going to go into a soapbox, talk about women's sports.
Keep it
but
going.
A lot of the things about women, because men are so fucking fragile, that are considered weaknesses like periods, having emotional intelligence, those sorts of things are fucking strengths that men will never understand that we possess. And organizations like Together really just kind of elevate what make women so fucking powerful and dynamic, and just to see the growth is it's just amazing.
It certainly is, and I'm glad. That's why I'm so happy we got to have this conversation. We're gonna take a quick break, and then afterwards we're gonna get into some fun stuff. Because did you know PlayStation is celebrating 30 years?
Feel old.
So that and more after this. I just want to remind you that you can save 10% on your order with Symphony of Balloons, a luxury balloon company that also offers a 360 camera. Just simply mention you heard about them on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support this podcast by wearing a t-shirt, whether it's the one that says Breaking Through Glass Ceilings or the one that says No Ceilings Above Success, simply go to foryourwear.com. Also, you can support some of your other favorite podcasts and content creators, including Those Wrestling Girls, Seahawk, and the Wrestling Club. And you can support some of your favorite independent wrestlers, including Jay Bougie, Trisha Dora, Chaz the Dawn. Shoot, all of Pure Ignorance is on there. So go on foryourwear.com, go under personalities, you'll find Brian H. Waters, and buy a t-shirt. And remember, I'll give you a shout out on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, are you in the gym every week? Are you looking to kind of keep yourself cool while you work up a nasty sweat? Well, I got the best thing for you. Cooling bands, bandanas, cooling towels, and so much more. Go to Vertical Athletics, get your favorite team in MLS or MLB, or guess what? Now they have a custom option so you can upload your own logo and you can save 10% at checkout when you enter the code Brian H. Waters. Go to verticalathletics.com, use the code Brian H. Waters to save 10% on some of your best cooling gear. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check out Vertical Athletics. Make sure you check out Opus Clip. Trust me, it will make your life easier. And Vertical Athletics, they always, they keep my hair out my face when I'm working out. So that's the reason. And of course, For Your Wear, which you can get one of your shirts from.
Official TWG merch.
Yeah. I mentioned PlayStation. 30 years.
Wow.
That's what I can say. I was like, first of all, it makes me feel old. I remember I got my first PlayStation. It had to have been like 2 years old because I got it like summer 95, Christmas. And I remember like just over the course of time, like I had an Xbox, I had a Dreamcast. Well, Megan had the Dreamcast, but I always came back to PlayStation. We've been using the PlayStation 5 for vacation. What do you think about it? Like when you think about the fact that PlayStation, I know you ain't delve heavy into the gaming, but you had a PlayStation.
I had my moments growing up. You couldn't grow up in the 90s and not be into video games a little bit. So I don't have any brothers. My nephew, who is a year and a half younger than me, I believe.
Shout out to him.
Shout out to him. And he would come up every summer and holidays, and he would bring his system and games up. And I remember we would always have like a controller because he would have one controller. He was the only child at the time. So he would come up and we would have controllers here for his system. And we would play with him, but it wasn't really like that deep and stuff like that. But then, I don't know, something like clicked. And me and my sister were like, we want to be good at this. Okay. Just like a side note, my nephew, being who he was, would teach us the wrong way to play video games so that he could win and beat us. And I'm very competitive and I'm very much a sore loser.
So
and
it's in the bloodline.
It's in the, yes. And when I found that out, it just like enraged me. Ooh. And I was just like, oh my God. And because I know I can beat you. Teach me how to play. I will fucking beat you. And we wanted a PlayStation. My sister and I, we ended up getting a PlayStation. And it was one of those things where like I wasn't a gamer, but I have very fond memories of playing PlayStation with my nephew and my sister. A lot of those games when I was younger, there was a few games that I was very adamant on beating as a kid. And this is gonna sound so crazy, but it was like so hard. It was this Barbie horse riding game.
Okay.
and you basically race this horse. You had like obstacle courses and different like games that you would play to get them to the next level, and you can like customize your horse and you can like dress it up and stuff like that, like real Barbie style. And it got to a point where my sister didn't really care about beating it. It was more just like the perks of like, oh, I want to dress up my horse, I want to do this. But once I saw that there were like levels and points and all that, I was like, wait, I want to beat this game. And I remember spending hours trying to beat this Barbie game. And when I finally beat it, it felt so good.
Oh, it's nothing like it.
And I know that might like, obviously hardcore gamers are like a Barbie game, but like I was like 8, 9, 10 years old.
Hardcore gamers would understand.
But
because
it's
that it's that desire to complete something. It's that desire to complete a game. And I remember PlayStation 4 was the system I decided no longer trading games. It was me and my friend, coworker Wes at ESPN. We both was working on Mike and Mike at the time. Both of us had PlayStation 4. I actually had an Xbox One first, but then the MLB The Show game came out, and I was like, wait, Xbox don't have a baseball game? I gotta get a baseball game. And that's what made me stay. And I was like, you know what? I'm in my career now. I don't need to be trading games in. And you see my collection, how I went back in my life and recollected a lot of the games I used to have. But it's nothing like finishing the story. But
adrenaline. You know.
Yeah. Oh, they know. Everybody knows. Cody Rhodes at the finish the story. And you were sitting there, and I was deep in hurt, and you were sitting there working when that happened. But that's a different story. You don't remember? Mania. I'm sitting there mourning.
Well, I was also mourning, but I had work to distract me.
I was trying. Look, I was sitting there right next to my boss and my co-hosts. You know, it's all 1-on-1.
I have a question.
Yes.
Am I allowed to kiss you on the show?
If you want to.
On the cheek.
But I was irritated, and you didn't comfort me. Why they made fun of me. And we had Drunk Cal, we had Drunk Cam.
It was so funny. Oh my God. You know what we should do?
Mm-hmm.
One day we should pod about our WrestleMania experience.
6 Hard Media.
Because they are so memorable.
All
we were
3.
able to attend 3 WrestleManias together. God willing, we'll be in Vegas.
Yes, we will.
And we'll have even more stories. But those were like really, really, really awesome moments.
They might have to pay for some of them. Patreon or YouTube
yeah.
subscriptions.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. But we were talking about something earlier that I would like to kind of touch on, because I want to know what you guys think in the comments on the GameStop culture.
Yes,
we talked about it
PlayStation.
because
You're right. You know, reel it back in.
No, because I miss the good old days. I am a nostalgia freak.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to The Ringer, and I think that is just the most
Cal
accurate.
just rolled his eyes,
yes.
But yeah.
It's such an accurate way to describe me, because I feel like as a millennial, we grew up in the last really good era of life in every single way. Technology, gaming, wrestling, sports, everything was so much more exciting when we grew up. And I remember more so in high school, like when the PS2 was coming out, PS3 was coming out, and that culture of going to GameStop, like it was an experience, and you met other kids, other like-minded people in those stores, and you were able to talk. People got really close to the workers at GameStop because they would get to know your tastes and be like, oh my God, recommendation. Same as like Blockbuster, where I think you would love, I seen that you rented this, I think you would love this. Just like that sense of community. There's a way of life. Yeah, that sense of community that's really lost these days because of
you just touched on something with that, right? Because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about how I purchased my PlayStation, right? So the first PlayStation I purchased myself was, well, technically, yeah, sort of. My mother was like, okay, this is your Christmas gift. PlayStation 2, I went in the store. You know, PlayStation 1 was a gift. It was on the couch Christmas morning. But
Santa came to town.
Yeah, absolutely. But PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, well, 3, 4, I went in the store. I went to GameStop for 3 and 4. PlayStation 2 is actually Sam Goody, the first one. Then the second was at Walmart because PlayStation 2 had issues. But PlayStation 5, you know, I was online constantly hitting the button. I had to go do order pickup at Best Buy. And it wasn't the same because it was like everybody was trying to get one. You remember the rave during the pandemic. But like you said, it was nothing like you going in there, you're expecting to spend just the PlayStation, but then it's like, but you need this and you need that and you need this, and it's just, man, like the culture of gaming, you look at how it's changed. And the best thing before we get off of PlayStation that I loved about PlayStation, because you was talking about earlier with your nephews, PlayStation was my first CD player.
Oh, valid. Same.
It was my
I used to play WWF music CDs on my PlayStation.
Wait, you had the music? I thought you didn't really care for.
I told you as a kid, I did. I had the green.
Yeah, Volume 4.
Yeah. I had that. Whichever had like, oh gosh, it's the era.
Go back into it.
I remember. Oh my god. Me and Latree, me and my sister, my twin sister, used to listen to those theme songs as a kid.
Yeah.
And
we used to use them as wrestling interests.
Yeah. Like we would play like that as well. But that was like, you just unlocked a whole memory of playing CDs on the PlayStation. Like, I miss the good old days.
It was. You remember the little boxes, and you could go right to the individual tracks. I told you my first CD was Mace, Harlem World. It was the clean version. I saved up my allowance, $15. But the first CD I played on it was my sister got the Salt and Pepper. She got the Salt and Pepper, and he who we not shall name. Well, he's been named a lot on this podcast because he's been getting views, that being Diddy, Puff Daddy and the Family, No Way Out. Had that CD, and I'm like, Megan, let me hold your CD. She may remember this. And I would play it while I'm cleaning up, vacuuming, you turn it up. But PlayStation 1 was my first CD player. PlayStation 2, my first DVD player. Shout out to my dad. He bought Fast and the Furious. PlayStation 3, my first Blu-ray player. And they said at that time, when I used to work at Best Buy, I would tell people, well, PlayStation is the best Blu-ray player, and it's just so crazy to see the system celebrate 30 years. You look back at...
I never went past PlayStation 1.
Oh, man.
Yeah, our interests changed.
Yeah, that's understandable.
We weren't like necessarily like gamers. Then we had a friend that lived in a neighborhood that was a big gamer, and my sister was more of a gamer than I was, and she would go play with her down the street. So PlayStation 1 was where it ended, but that gray console, those big buttons on the side. You're surprised I hardly even remember that.
Oh, no, I know you do.
Just opening up the thing, fucking having to clean the CD and seeing if the little laser shit was good. And
that was the thing, too, for, obviously being wrestling fans. That was
wrestling?
Yeah.
Ooh, me too.
That was a lot of, a lot of wrestling gaming. Through all of them, the wrestling games had to be on point. I still, real Dwayne Allen will say, no mercy as the rest of the world, but I'm still going to say SmackDown 2, just know your role. That's my favorite. Most people say when you go to PlayStation 2, here comes the pain. But the wrestling gaming, the sports gaming, but shout out to PlayStation for 30 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. Besides making me feel old, is an amazing celebration to look back on.
Well, speaking of feeling old, I'll tell you I feel old because we delve into music. Kendrick Lamar and SZA. I said it right. They're going on tour, and I don't know much of SZA's music. The reason why, if we being honest, I know Kendrick's music. One, Humble was played throughout one of the NBA finals. That was like one of the songs, and it has a catchy beat. But I love a good rap beef. And you remember the last time we was on vacation was the start of the Kendrick Drake beef. Like, we spent a lot of vacation.
Euphoria dropped.
Yes,
I think the day before we were leaving for vacation.
No, we was in the car.
On the road. On the road. Yeah, Euphoria dropped, and I remember us listening to that over and over and over again on the ride.
Not Like Us came out while we
and
were
then
here.
Yes, and because I remember, I don't know how deep you want to go into it, but I remember loving Euphoria. Still my favorite song out of the whole entire beef, like even more than Not Like Us. I think it's such a beautiful song, and I think it really just shows Kendrick's lyricism. He is unmatched when it comes to that, and also it just kind of makes you think like J. Cole knew what he was doing when he bowed the fuck out, because he said, "Oh, this shit about to get real. Kendrick is about to say some shit. You know what? I'm gonna gracefully bow out of this." And all in all, it was an interesting vacation to start because it's like, oh, I know we listened to on the road. We listened to Euphoria, Kendrick, but it did introduce a lot more people to Kendrick. So, at work, my number 2 for a long time at work was exactly 10 years younger than me. So it was always very interesting talking to her about pop culture stuff because she just came from such a different perspectives, different eras and stuff like that, and they were more familiar with Kendrick because they grew up on him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like me, for example, like K Dot was somebody that I had to get into kind of later on in life because I was like stuck in my ways of like the hip hop I grew up on. So Kendrick, like I liked his music, but I wasn't really like in it. And then this beef started. And I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. And then I went back to all the Kendrick songs I do like. And then like I love them. I don't just like them now. I love them. Yeah. And just witnessing kind of the modern era of like rap beef. Unfortunately, it kind of took a turn for like the worst just because showmanship. Yeah, like, you know.
What you think about the I want you, because you're going right there, and talked about this last week. What do you think about Drake suing?
Corny as shit. And I think me and you talked about it. Honestly, that's like the worst thing he could have ever done for his image, especially like as a hip hop artist. Yeah. That's the worst thing. And I think we talked about it, and I was just like, that's literally the worst thing he could have ever done. And then there's levels to it. Like as somebody who works in marketing, I like to pride myself on being really good at brand marketing.
You are.
Charlamagne mentioned it. While the beef was happening, and he said, you know, Drake is $1 billion brand and Kendrick is releasing songs calling him a pedophile. Something is going to be done about that. You know what I'm saying? In general, like whether it's true or not, it's probably not true. I'm sure, whatever. Hopefully it's not true. Yeah. However, it's a rap beef. You just kind of take that L. Like take that L, you know, just if I was Drake, I would have took that L. You know, because it's not like Drake didn't come back. Like they were going back and forth with diss songs. Don't ask me any of the Drake diss songs because they're not memorable. But
there's some people that liked it. Yeah, it wasn't
him
one-sided.
And J. Cole also started it. So it was like, okay, Drake, you kind of got outmatched. It's okay. I always was one, and you can even say, and I meant I as much as I loved Euphoria, Not Like Us, I always said Drake still will always be Drake. Yeah, he never will really lose. Like he will always still be Drake. I still love Drake. Well, I don't know how I feel about Drake, but anyway,
that made you change.
I wouldn't say change because I was one of the biggest Drake fans. Yeah, I discovered Drake in like 2006 as an artist. Obviously, I watched Degrassi, but I started listening to his actual music back in like 2006. Okay, and it got to the point where I would search his music online. I would search it in iTunes, and it wouldn't even come up. The only Drake that would come up in iTunes was Drake from Drake and Josh. Oh, wow. That's how long I've been a Drake fan. I discovered him going into college. His music, it was just such a like unique take on like hip hop music, and I really resonated with it. And I was the biggest Drake fan of life. Anyone that knows Drake and like Trey Songz mixtapes, Drake mixtape days before he even signed to Lil Wayne, like that's how big of a Drake fan I was. So I was hurt to see the downfall, and like him suing, it makes you look at his career differently because you're not hip hop. You never were. If you are gonna sue after losing a rap beef, he went the Karen route in a fucking rap beef. And that's when you have to look at him a little sideways. And then I hate to be that person, but then it's like he is half white. You know, he never was about the culture. And people would say that, and I would always call them haters over the years for Drake's career, that he was never about the culture. Because if you think about it, Drake, you grew up as a child actor in Canada. You didn't grow up in the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so there was always this question about where Drake fit in the culture, and him suing his own label, because him and Kendrick Lamar's music is distributed by the same company. So Drake is suing his own fucking, and it's like, bars. You know what I mean? So it's so unfortunate when you just see, it's very disappointing when you see the downfall. But then again, on the other end of it, like Charlamagne said, Drake is $1 billion brand, and you can't just call him a pedophile over and over in a song and get away with it. So it's, it's tough.
Wow.
It's tough. Damn Drake. That's all I gotta say.
That's the name of that segment.
Can I also say something else?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's very hurtful. A lot of these artists that have experienced downfalls in the last 5-10 years are artists that I really resonated with in my late teens, early 20s, like Kanye West. I related so much to Kanye. Kanye and Drake were they were almost like that alternative to hip hop, because you had the 50 Cents and the Jay-Z's, who is the best ever.
Yes.
But they rapped about a certain thing, and Kanye and Drake brought a sensitivity to rap music that I really personally resonated with.
Okay.
And they were just so pivotal in my formative years of forming my own taste in music, and seeing their downfall, Drake's downfall. Drake was that nigga at one point where if you even had
I remember those.
Not even a feature, but if you were even spotted with Drake, you had it. Drake had it.
I told you, I remember when he came to ESPN, it was a big deal. Exactly. People was like, yo, Drake is here. Drake is here.
God. And then he glowed up. Yeah, I remember, ladies. He glowed up, got buff, got the beard. And I was just like, ooh. And then it's he reverted right back to the cornball he was when he came into the industry. I mean,
rest in peace to the good version of Drake. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
And that's my take.
That's your take.
Drake. So back to Kendrick's concert.
No, I mean,
I think it makes the most sense. He's about to do the Super Bowl. This year was his year. Just like someone like you, he crossed over. There's people that never listened to Kendrick's music and now are all in on Kendrick.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense that he would put out that album GNX, which is actually really good, front to back. He's going on tour with SZA, who was one of the biggest streaming artists the past couple of years, the biggest concert the past couple of years. He discovered. I wouldn't say discover SZA, but she was signed to his label.
Okay.
Initially, so it kind of makes a lot of sense that they would go on tour together. I do find it interesting that they're stopping in Toronto. That's the only stop they're doing in Canada is in Toronto. The only city they're doing.
And as big as Canada is, we know, being big wrestling fans, you got Montreal, you could have Vancouver.
Yep.
But they said we coming into your hometown.
Kendrick is going to Drake's hometown. And
I gotta ask this question because we come up in the 90s. Biggie went to the West Coast.
He went back to Cali.
He didn't come back.
That was me.
But you, I mean, with Twin Flame shit, it's not gonna get that violent, is it?
It's not gonna get that violent.
Okay.
It's not gonna get that violent.
Okay.
I mean, Drake sued. I feel like that's the furthest it's gonna go, unfortunately, and it's so corny to say, but I think Kendrick is fine.
Didn't somebody get into a fight over this recently?
Yeah, they have.
But that was amongst the people. It wasn't with the artists, right?
No, it was. I think it was
the stands,
probably the stands and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't want to put that out there. I don't think anything crazy is gonna happen. Okay. I think if anything, Kendrick is gonna pull out all the stops for that show. And it's probably gonna be
they've got to stream
one of the most memorable.
Put that on Amazon.
That's probably the one he'll stream live. Oh my god! Let's remember this moment because Kendrick did the pop out on Amazon Prime live,
which was destroying the Yankees.
Oh my god, where are they now? Anyway,
on the couch.
Wait, who won the World Series?
The Dodgers.
Oh, well, shout out to Kendrick. Yeah, shout out to Kendrick.
LA's winning.
Yeah, but the pop out live was so amazing on Amazon Prime. So I could see. I wouldn't be surprised if he did something similar in Toronto. And can I just say one thing to end the Kendrick segment, in which I love about him? He's only spoken through his music. He didn't.
That's so true.
He's done an interview. I forgot what magazine he was in, but for the most part, and I think taking a cue from Beyonce's book, let the music speak for itself.
Yeah,
let the music speak for itself.
Wow. I think the people, you know we can't just do this just this one time. Because I think you done started something. You came in here. Whoo, you dropped some hammers. You came with it. Hey, Krista B, I'm taking her. She mine now.
Love you, girl.
Cause man, see, I feel like usually, I mean, granted, we do TWG fan club. We've done some stuff, but you know, it's very rare. We haven't done the trending topics. We have these conversations. But man, you just dropped the hammer. I can't give them the rest. Like, I have some more stuff on the rundown.
I think you should just have me back on the show.
Yeah.
Maybe a co-host.
Yeah, I think so. Oh man, yeah. Let's just wrap this up. We'll talk about Sophie Ryan's OnlyFans in the next time. Sophie Rain. I said Sophie Ryan's. Yeah, Sophie Rain's OnlyFans the next time. We're going to get into that whole stupid golden bat rule. We'll talk about, you know, I'm going to let Justin Tucker off the hook because you gave enough like bullets that, yeah.
I really enjoyed this.
Me too. Me too. I mean, I'm at a loss for words, and you know, this don't happen too often. But let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me, Queen PR at Queen3_PR on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I will be on Blue Sky more often. Same handle.
That don't have no underscores.
Queen PR dot.
This is Queen
whatever.
PR. Yeah.
Social, whatever.
Dot Sky or dot Blue, whatever.
Yeah. And make sure you follow those wrestling girls everywhere on social media. We have so much amazing stuff coming in 2025 that I cannot wait for Krista B and I to be able to share with you all. And I want to give a shout out to Brian H. Waters. Thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you for coming home.
This was a lot of fun.
It was definitely. I enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Y'all know the deal. Follow me at Brian H. Waters on all social media platforms. What are you Damian Sandow? Ms. Dow. But yeah, check me out on all the social media platforms. Look, click all the links in the bio. It's a lot. Until the next time, folks, remember, do not let anyone place a ceiling above your success. So long, everybody.
Yeah.
Are you a podcaster who is looking to share clips from your show in the simplest way possible? Well, I have the best solution, and that's Opus Clip. Opus Clip allows you to take a link to your show, upload it, and then they will clip off some of the best moments. And it allows you to edit it, change the captions, change the colors, and they also give you a viral score so you know which clip can potentially generate more buzz for your show. So, if you're looking to do that, click the link in the bio, sign up for Opus Clip, and go viral with some of the best content.